So there's this girl in Wisconsin, right? And she was abducted from her living room after her door was kicked in and her parents were butchered while they screamed into 911, right? They're still trying to find volunteers to find her, and she's at the top of the FBI's missing persons list. And it's interesting that it's on the same weekend that Halloween made $77 million. And I just wonder, like, why people get off on watching fictionalized representations of these real crimes. Like, you know it's happening. But there's this disconnect where you go to these movies and you see Michael Myers hacking up someone in their living room. I was reading this book called Insane: America's Criminal Treatment of Mental Illness. And there's a story in it, a real life story, about a normal guy, previously normal guy, who snapped one day and beat his own mother to death with a hammer. Just in cold blood, as brutally as possible. And I'm pretty sure one of the kills in the new Halloween is like someone that looks like someone's mother just getting beaten to death with a hammer. Right? And so I'm actually asking here because in my last video on this subject, I was really upset. I always bring up my own accident in this case, where I was on foot and I got hit by an SUV. I went through his windshield at 35 miles an hour and the glass pulled a lot of my flesh off. And because I lost so much blood or was losing so much blood, they had to start operating on me before any anesthesia was on board. So I had to feel all of it. You know what I mean? And if I tried to pass out from shock, they would wake me up with smelling salts because I had a brain injury. And they don't want you to pass out when you have a brain injury. You can die from that. So I was in total agonizing awareness of how it feels to have your flesh all cut up and mutilated while you're awake. And I really want to understand, like, why the average person finds this so entertaining. Why it's what they would go see for a good time. Why, and like, I think it's even made by comedians now, right? It's made by the guys who did the Pineapple Express. It's written by Danny McBride. Because it's all a big fucking joke, right? The girl in Wisconsin, the guy who murdered his mom with a hammer, the pain that I felt having my flesh ripped off my face, having a piece of glass pulled out of my eye socket that was touching my eyeball. It's all like a big joke. It's like a big laugh, right? It's something you take your date to make out in front of. And I don't see how people can argue that they're not desensitized, if not outright sadistic. I want to reserve judgment on that the average person isn't that sadistic and cruel and horrible that they would laugh at the real, genuine crime. But when you know that the exact acts portrayed in the film are actually happening to real people, how can you justify finding them entertaining? I think I was watching Film Gob, and he put it like it's about watching Michael Myers get what he deserves. Like, oh, come on. How many times does Michael get up? How many times does Jason get up? How many times does Freddy get up? Because you keep paying to see him. And the more money he makes, the more he's gonna get up and come back. He never suffers any sort of consequences. He never gets any sort of poetic justice. He made $77 million on his opening weekend, so you can guarantee there's going to be another Halloween 2. This will be the third Halloween 2, by the way. There's the original from the 80s, there's the Rob Zombie, and then there'll be Halloween 2. Again. And it's always just some asshole with a kitchen knife or a hammer beating to death someone that looks like your mom or your neighbor. And that book, Insanity, or Insane, sorry, Insane, is completely loaded with stories like that. People that just perform acts like Michael Myers, it's actually routine for the justice system to see these things. And it's like, I really want to understand. I want to understand that kind of heart level disconnect that people have where they just don't care that it's happening in the real world and they go to this movie and find it hilarious. I just don't, I don't get it.